Something else I wanted to touch on that you mentioned is you said something about taking classes for women and stuff like that, or um,
Or like femininity
yeah.
classes and adulthood classes and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Yeah, I kind of had to figure it out. I just been figuring it out, still figuring it out, and I'm
Well,
willing to pay for classes.
well, one another thing that I do that I have been doing within the community, and it goes along with fitness and stuff like that, is that I am very much so an advocate for women and just trying to empower myself, but also empower women and there's been a lot of violence against women lately. I don't know if you've been watching the news and stuff, but um, just trying to help women get through because we have our unique challenges, unique things that we work on, and most of the stuff that I do, like the yoga and different stuff like that, is usually geared toward women, and usually I'll if it's something that we're really gonna go in as far as women, sometimes I'll just do it just solely with women. So I've also do a lot of speaking with women, dealing with women in trauma or women writing or women self care and stuff like that. And so one of the things I was going to talk to you about when we were going to climb the mountain is that I'm in the beginning stages of doing an event that is going to be a march for women, and I think that I'm gonna be going with the Bernice Gardens,
Okay.
and it's just like an empowerment day for women. I'm kind of modeling it after I went to Houston to a similar event, and I'm kind of modeling it after that, and it's gonna be like a lot of information there for women, and um, so, like I say, I'm just in the beginning stages, so
Yeah.
hopefully you'll come out, maybe speak or something, or have some
Whatever
information.
you need me to do. You need me to pass out flyers. You need me to put out a fundraiser. You need me to have a conversation. You need me to put up chairs. You need me
Well,
whatever. I'm
well,
happy
thank
to
you.
help.
So I'm looking at two locations. So one is Vernice Gardens. I just talked to her today, and I think I made that was my first choice. And then there was the River Market. So it'll be in June, and
Okay.
I'll give you the details on it.
All right. So now, is this gonna be? Did you say it is a march? Is it like so? The idea is to bring women together to kind of
Hmm.
support each other, like
Right.
in a moment, and then maybe build out future connections and
Yes.
things like that.
It's like a networking thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be it's going to be called the March for Black Women, but it's inclusive for allies and also anybody identifying as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is going to be like networking, kind of a little bit of a rally, kind of like us talking. And I want to invite city leaders, school leaders, law enforcement, as well as like community. Like there's, I know a young lady. I don't know if you know her, quite easy. She does like doula services and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is to just bring different, particularly different women
Mm-hmm.
together to discuss either their businesses or their services. Um, and there'll be food trucks out there and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I'll have a roster of people to recommend too, depending on how many sponsors or
okay,
whatever participation. Because as I was talking to Karen Walker, getting ready to do her Spark Retreat Saturday, and she's lining up her.
for people. Okay.
And so I was putting stuff together for that. So I'll probably just create a list for people to be able to
Okay.
pull from to see what kind of people or professionals fit, not professionals, but people who fit their program.
Okay. And
Yeah, I'm happy to help
yeah,
that. In
I'll give you
June?
my email. And you can
Okay.
just email it to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or you can call me. Anything you want to
Yeah.
do, we can meet on Zoom or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it'll be good. It'll be a first annual, and they have these in like Houston. I was inspired from Houston because I went out
Mm-hmm.
there for their march, and they call it a march because they do actually walk down the street. It's like maybe 2 or 3 hours of the event. The event lasts 2 or 3 hours, but
Mm-hmm.
um, at the end of it, there'll be a group that'll actually just kind of walk down the street. So they have it in DC.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they have it everywhere. I just looked at those two. And
Okay.
so I just thought that Arkansas needed something like that to celebrate, to
Okay.
celebrate us. And that's not to say men can't come,
Mm-hmm.
because we come when they do like my brother's keeper events and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. We come and we support it, so it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
it's inclusive. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the focus is on women, and
Yeah.
particularly women in marginalized communities.
I feel like that's it's so important right now. Mainly because what the media is putting out,
Mhm.
the mainstream media, they should be ashamed of themselves for the music, the entertainment, the television that they put out. So I was following this thing once, and they talked about being hypnotized, you know, and if you and any example you see of being hypnotized, they play some kind of music, you know, they put you in a trance, and then they say or insert things to control your behavior, whether it's positive or negative, and then when you come out of it, then that is implanted in you.
That's true.
And when you think about when you listen to music, when I listen to music, I'm usually in a relaxed state, or I could easily be in a relaxed state. And so, if I'm listening to something that tells me, you know, that it suggests things about values that or activities I should do, whether it's sex, drugs, or violence, something like that. And then also the radio, if you listen to radio, they play the same song
over and over and over. Yeah.
So you even find yourself singing the words to a song
that you didn't even like. Yeah.
Right. And so now if I turn on the radio, I'm like, or if I go out and I hear like popular music and they're dancing, I'm like, oh my, what did they say? Am I getting old? Maybe I'm getting old.
No, I mean, I feel the same way. Cause I mean, back in the day, I could listen to it and not think anything of it, but now it bothers me, it troubles me, and you have to be intentional because we're overwhelmed. I mean, you can just scroll down Facebook and you're gonna get pulled into something, you know. I find myself watching something, I'm like, why should I? Like, there was a video I watched that troubled me so bad. What was it? It was like a couple weeks ago, I think. It was a man, he was getting his car stolen. I don't know if you saw that video.
Was it in Chicago where they shot, because it was a fireman that they shot. Apparently they're doing some, every time I go to Chicago, they warn me about carjackings.
It was a carjacking.
Yeah.
But it was like in a downtown area, and he didn't let go of the car, so the car kept going, he was holding on to it, and they hit something. And they actually showed him land, like,
oh wow.
I was like, wow. But I couldn't pull away. I had to see what happened. And then it troubled me, and I was like, I can't bring this into my spirit, you know.
And that's real life. I stopped at my cousin's house a couple of weeks ago, and she was watching one of these cop shows. I think it was the one with Angela Davis in it. And when I first, it's a sitcom, and it's probably a couple of seasons in. And when I first walked in, the scene that they created, it upset. I was troubled. And so my friends know I don't actively watch a lot of TV, but if I come in and you're watching TV, I'm instantly drawn into it. And they laugh at me for that, like, watch it. They're like, watch it, you're drawn in. And I analyze everything, so they say I'm terrible to watch TV. I'm like, that wouldn't even happen in real life. That's crazy. Why would they do this or whatever? So they're like, just watch the movie. I cannot, because I relate to all people, you know, even the characters and stuff like that. So it's frustrating to me to see something that wouldn't portray a sensible person,
right?
Because now, and I heard somebody say this, it used to be where real life imitated TV.
Now,
TV imitated life, but now life is imitating.
That's absolutely true.
And so that's what I think we're seeing a lot of with music and
the way people are looking and what they're doing to their bodies and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So this is my attempt of putting some of that positive energy that I want in the world in the internet.
Oh, that's good.
That, you know, so I'm so glad that I got to. I didn't even know you were. I knew you were pretty cool, but I didn't know you were as cool as you were. I'm like, check this out. So I did see in your when I was looking you up, you had a post about hip hop history. I can't read my writing. Seeding the culture in Arkansas.
Oh, I was on a panel.
Okay.
Maybe that's what you were looking at.
Yeah.
It was a hip hop panel about the history of hip hop, which that happened like last month, I think, or
yeah.
It was in February or March, but so it was talking about the history of hip hop and also the history of hip hop in Arkansas. So I know a lot of rappers and stuff just because of what I used to do all the time. Plus, I know my resume keeps getting longer, but
with the poetry, is what you mean what you used to do all the time with the poetry and the film and the
being
play?
on the poetry scene and the play, it's like the rap community. It kind of meshes.
Okay.
So some of the guys I knew as poets were also rappers, and it just intermingled. Plus, around that time when I was doing my play, I started working at the radio station. So I was bringing in local rappers. And when I very first moved to Arkansas, and you might not remember this because you might not have been here back then, but I worked at a music store called Camelot Music. And so I actually, prior to the poetry scene, when I worked at Camelot Music, I met a lot of people that love music. A lot of, back then everybody was coming in buying CDs and tapes and stuff. And so, because I moved here 20 years ago. So I had met them then. So when I got on the poetry scene, the rap scene kind of runs parallel and intermingles a lot of times. And so once again, I'm meeting a lot of the guys and females that were hip hop artists in Arkansas. So when I started doing my plays, by going to different radio stations and being on those shows, I was asked to have a show. And so I jumped on it because what better way to promote your play than having your radio show.
All right.
So it was community radio though.
So your resume is getting longer.
So I jumped on the radio. I had a show called the Urban Hang Suite, and it was like alternative hip hop, R&B, poetry, and a bunch of other stuff. And so a lot of the rappers would come and be on my show. It didn't have to be a rapper, like it could be anybody. Like I had Corto Mamalu, she does the fashion.
Yes, from Project Runway.
Yes, before Project Runway, she was on there. There's a young lady that does salsa, Leah Patterson.
I don't know her.
I think she was from Chicago.
Not yet.
She's a black woman that does salsa dancing, and she teaches it around here. I met her. She also has a natural makeup line. I had her on my show, so I would have basically anybody in the community doing something good, positive. We'll let them come on the show, and I would interview them. And it wasn't visual; it was all on air.
Okay.
Like radio.
Okay.
And so a lot of people remember me from that, and so I was approached to do the hip hop, to be one of the women on the hip hop panel.
Okay.
From that background.
All right, that's good stuff.
So,
girl, check you out.
I used to do some things around here before I got old.
Well, now you can speak on it. You can help us. That's how you're able to pour back into the women, with these women programs and stuff like that. Because you've crossed the barriers that other people are considering, or even they're at that point now. And
some of those younger women that used to come on the poetry scene, that used to be like, "Oh, Coffy, I admire you." They're like doing some major things out here. So like if the baton has been passed, they have truly taken it to the next level. They're like Drika Wright, she was one, and she's now.
I saw her on the podcast. This guy is doing Demetrius.
Hedgewood, is that his name?
I think it's with the D. It's DD. But it's called the Ruling Class Podcast. So I just saw an interview he did with her, and she has some really good stuff. I think I even reposted one of the comments she said, "Do it hard." On the Facebook page.
She works at the Arts Council.
Okay.
So she does the programming. I think that's her title, like programming manager or something along those lines.
Okay.
She's been doing that for about a year now, I think.
Okay.
And so, and see, back then, I was just somebody just trying to be on the roster with the Arts Council, and just being one of the artists on the roster. And I actually won an award for that book from them before she was ever involved in the Arts Council.
Okay.
It was the Arkansas Fellowship Award for 2019. So Drika now works there. So I feel like, I'm like at least one generation ahead of her. And I just kind of feel like as we progress, it just gets better and better, She was just somebody, like back then she was in high school and she used to come up to the poetry scene and be like, "Oh, Coffy," and then all of a sudden she just blossoms into this major force out here. And
so she was planting her seeds and you were just kind of pouring into her and stuff like that. So,
and not just me, but there, she had a couple other connections on the scene too. But I just remember her being a young woman there and a young lady there, and Chris James, the one that owns a House of Art.
Okay.
He, in North Little Rock, he would come around and But he created a whole poetry venue, you know. And he was you know, a little younger than I was, and he came along after we had already kind of been established out here for a while. And so yeah, it's thriving, and it's better and greater than we could have imagined.
I just noticed the Medusa is me. Medusa, I just noticed that. That's cool.
Trying to be creative.
You did good.